Your property line into my swimming pool. That's what Diane Ashford screeched at me, right in my face, like I just tried to steal her firstborn, clipboard waving, her smile sharp enough to freeze gasoline, and those red survey stakes slashing 40 meters into the farm my grandfather left me. And that, right there, is how my so-called peaceful country life became ground zero for an HOA war I never asked for and definitely never wanted. The name's Caleb Thornton. I've been back on this land for 6 months, fixing up old fences, learning to breathe again after 20 years of city deadlines and bosses with too many opinions. 6 months of quiet, of sunrise coffee under the oaks, until Diane, the HOA president, showed up to redraw reality with nothing but some shiny surveys and a tone that made you feel like a misbehaving kid. She had paperwork, but me? I had deeds dating back to 1887. And what she didn't know, I was about to make her regret every single lie. Ever dealt with someone who thinks a little title makes them untouchable? Drop a comment. Let's see how alone I really am out here. That morning started like any other since I'd moved back. Soft May sunlight, that golden kind that filters through old oaks and makes even busted fence posts look poetic. There I was, standing by a fence that had seen better decades, coffee in one hand, a running list of chores in my head. Chicken wire needed mending, 3 shingles missing from the workshop roof, small stuff, the kind of problems that make sense after city chaos. 8 acres, left to me by my grandfather, and the deed, yellowed, smoky, signed in a hand nobody writes with anymore, sat in a fireproof box, watching over it all. Grandpa used to walk this fence every Sunday, checking every post, clearing brush, making sure no one, not nature or neighbor, took an inch that wasn't theirs. I picked up the tradition. It felt like keeping a promise, you know? Then I saw it. Red stake, bright as a flare, hammered into ground that should have been left alone. 15 feet inside my boundary, solid as anything. I nudged it with my boot, and it didn't budge. Looked up, saw 2 more, all of them forming a line that didn't match a single thing I'd walked for half a year. That's when I heard the golf cart. White new, rolling up my drive like it belonged there. Diane stepped out, clipboard first, pink vest tight despite the heat, blonde hair and some kind of news anchor helmet, and a smile that hit you 3 seconds before she did. She called my name like we were best friends, like she hadn't ignored every wave I'd given her since I moved in. HOA president of Meadowbrook Estates. The development pressed up against my western fence. Always busy, always important, always distant. Not today. She started talking before I could even ask about the stakes, running her mouth about boundary map updates, HOA protocols, and legal responsibilities. Her voice, if you've ever heard someone who expects never to be questioned, you know what I mean. She asked if I knew where my property line actually was. I looked at her, and for a second I wasn't sure if I was supposed to laugh or call a lawyer. Then she handed me a document, laser perfect and official, HOA boundary notification, bolded and everything. Said I couldn't move, repair, or even clear brush near the line for 30 days while they process things. Language polite and thick with legalese. Sounded reasonable till you realized it was telling me what I couldn't do on my own land. I asked about the stakes. She said they were just preliminary markers, nothing to worry about, just reference points for the surveyor. I asked who the surveyor was. Internal, she said, like that meant I shouldn't ask more. Very professional, very thorough. She smiled, thanked me for my cooperation, and was halfway back to her golf cart before I realized I hadn't agreed to a thing. After she left, I walked the fence again, following those stakes. They weren't just off, they were 40 meters deep into my land. That's where I wanted my vegetable garden. That's land that had always been mine. I went inside, started digging through my grandfather's old box, birth certificates, tax records, soil notes. At the bottom, a brittle letter from a lawyer dated 1987, warning Grandpa about a boundary dispute with the then-new Meadowbrook Estates. The lawyer said, "They will try to take what they think you won't defend." Grandpa had underlined it, hard with blue pen. He knew. Now I did too. So I spent the afternoon pretending to organize tools, mind running through what-ifs. Evening came. I walked the fence again, found 3 more stakes, now deeper into my property. Someone had been busy while I wasn't looking. I took photos, every stake, every angle, every inch of fence line. Diane made her first mistake. She thought I wouldn't look close, that I wouldn't care, that Grandpa hadn't prepped me for this. 5 days later, a brand new yellow chain stretched between those stakes. Not old or forgotten, fresh, marking territory. My phone buzzed. Email, 6:30 a.m. Diane believed in psychological warfare with breakfast. It referenced a 2003 boundary map and told me, in fancy language, that the chain was HOA property. My land? Not mentioned. I pulled out the deed from 1965. It showed the boundary running 65 meters further west than Diane's line. If that was right, her garage and swimming pool were on my land. I traced that line from the northern oak to the southern creek, checked it against satellite maps. The math was simple. Her garage, her pool, her flower beds, they were all built on soil that had been Thornton family land since before HOA was a thing. I called the number on the HOA letterhead. Got transferred, ended up at Diane's voicemail. Left a message about seeing the map. She called back an hour later. Her tone softer, but still all control. HOA records were internal, not public, and I could hire my own surveyor if I wanted, but HOA wouldn't cover it. Then she mentioned, all casual, that they preferred to maintain positive relationships. The word preferred felt like a knife in a gift box. I asked if there'd be consequences if I pushed. She laughed, but her eyes stayed cold. The HOA has legal counsel. We have resources. We don't want you to be a problematic neighbor. She hung up before I could say I didn't plan on being anybody's victim. That's when I went to see Virgil Hartley, my grandfather's old friend, 73, sharper than most folks half his age. I laid out my story on his porch. He listened, nodded. Diane had done this before, he said. One family moved rather than fight. Another spent 10 grand on lawyers, then gave up. Diane's system was simple. Make it more expensive to fight than to give in. Virgil gave me a card. Fletcher Boone, land surveyor. Said Boone was honest, and the HOA hated him for refusing to fudge numbers. If I wanted truth, Boone was my guy. I texted Boone at 2 in the morning after a nightmare about red stakes multiplying like weeds. He replied before dawn. He could start next week, just needed any deeds I had. I sent him photos of everything. The week after, while I was in the workshop, a guy in an orange vest showed up, walking my line with a clipboard. No call, no knock, just measuring like he owned the place. Said he was Trent from Meadbrook Land Services, hired by the HOA. Didn't want me present, didn't have much equipment, just a wheel and a tape measure. I asked for his credentials. He flashed a laminated card, but wouldn't give a license number. Said it was all on file with the county. He avoided the real markers, stuck to areas where the numbers matched what Diane wanted. When he left, I searched his company, founded 3 weeks ago, address matched Diane's house. Then came the twist, a message from an anonymous HOA member. The surveyor was Diane's son-in-law. Attached was a screenshot of Trent hugging Diane's daughter at Thanksgiving. Be careful, the email ended. She has expensive lawyers and cheap ethics. I called Boone. He listened, then said he'd be here in 2 days. Needed to find the original boundary stones, not the HOA's fantasies. When he showed up, his equipment looked like NASA gear, GPS, laser, metal detectors. He found the witness tree, scraped away decades of leaves, and there it was, sandstone marker, carved 1887. Over the next few hours, Boone marked out a line that ran 45 meters into Meadowbrook Estates, right through Diane's garage and pool. The report was technical, precise, indisputable. I invited the county surveyor as a witness. The official, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s, arrived with a tablet, ready for paperwork. Diane rolled up 10 minutes later, stage-ready in her golf cart, with Trent and his camera. She talked first, all charm and concern, but you could see her calculating. When the independent surveyor presented his evidence, original markers, GPS, photos, Diane pushed her own paperwork, claimed it was from 1952, but the seal was photocopied, the signature fake. The county official paused, then calmly froze all changes, no building, no removals, until the evidence was reviewed. Diane stormed off. The anonymous member texted again. She's getting ready to sue. Lawyer on retainer. Be ready. Sure enough, the lawsuit landed 2 weeks later. Trespass, harassment, defamation. $250,000 in damages, plus a restraining order request. Her claims were pure fantasy, but the goal was clear: bleed me dry with legal fees. Virgil's attorney friend, a woman who specialized in property rights, took my case. She called it a slap suit, designed to silence and exhaust. We filed a motion to dismiss and counterclaimed. Fraud, conspiracy, trespass, asked for $350,000 and the removal of her structures. Here's the kicker. Our anonymous source sent us email showing Diane had known about the boundary issue for years, that she'd ordered Trent to move the line inward to save her pool, and that the whole shell company was her idea. The story hit the local paper, front page. HOA president accused of systematic land fraud. Social media went wild. At the next HOA meeting, 12 out of 18 board members voted for Diane to resign. The court battle was surreal. Diane's lawyer argued adverse possession, status quo, all the usual tricks. But my attorney had the 1887 deed, the GPS survey, the stone markers, the whistleblower, and those damning emails. The judge didn't take long, ruled the boundary was mine, ordered Diane to demolish her garage and pay my fees, and forwarded her emails to the prosecutor. Diane vanished from the HOA scene. Her house sold. The garage came down. The HOA was stripped of enforcement power, and the prosecutor filed charges: fraud, forgery, perjury. Diane got probation, fines, a lifetime ban from HOA boards. Her apology was as hollow as you'd expect. I planted native grass and new garden beds where her structures had been. By spring, you couldn't even tell. Virgil stopped by with bread, told stories about my grandfather settling boundaries with handshakes. He said I'd done the family proud. Nora, the anonymous member, revealed herself, invited me to a community meeting. She was now acting HOA president, tasked with making things right. I went, said a few words about knowing your land, keeping records, and not letting authority go unchecked. The new fence I built followed the true line. Oak posts just 4 feet high, with a little sign, established 1887, restored 2024. The neighbors came together for a barbecue, awkward at first, but lighter as the evening went on. Some apologized, some thanked me. The lesson was simple. Documents matter more than threats. Evidence beats bluster. That evening, I walked to the fence line. A young sapling stood near the old marker, fragile but rooted. Just like the truth, slow to grow, impossible to kill once set. I sat on the porch, the swing creaking, the air lighter, the land peaceful again. The red stakes weathered in the rain, a reminder not of victory, but of vigilance. Boundaries aren't just lines, they're promises. The wind shifted, the barbecue's last coals faded, and for the first time in a year, it sounded like home. So let me throw out to you. Do you think justice is about the law, or about who's willing to fight for what's right? Have you ever seen someone try to rewrite reality, and did you stand your ground? Drop your thoughts below. Let's talk about what really counts when it comes to defending what's yours. And if this hit home, smash that like button, share your own stories, and stick around. We've got more wild tales coming, and I'd love to hear yours.